Hey guys, this is Scott. Today we're going to change struts on a 2014 Patriot. So it's my daughter's vehicle and needed new struts, so went ahead and ordered them through. A couple of things we'll talk about when you order parts. Rock Auto is very solid with prices, great quality products. A couple of things also want to point out. Been a great help for me is Advance Auto, and Advance Auto has price match. Of course, you got to call their online account, but they price match with Rock Auto. So, good thing about that is obviously Advance Auto is all around the area. You can constantly take it back, trade it, or whatever the case may be if it goes out of its warranty. So they would do a price match. Has to be the same exact part, and it has to have the same warranty as well. So in this case, I ordered the struts right off of Advance Auto, price match Rock Auto. I forget, I think they were about $38, somewhere in that neighborhood a piece, so really good price. You could buy the ones already with the springs on them, which obviously if you don't want to mess with the springs and try to pull them off yourself, then that's the way to go. It just costs you a little bit more money. The difference is if you go to a cheaper brand and do not buy anything that's brand name, I should say, you're risking the chance of not having the same size springs that go with the manufacturer that's been measured for spec. So you could buy a cheaper brand that has everything together. Springs might be a lot smaller, might be thicker, which is going to be a harder ride. So I've decided to keep the struts, keep the springs on the new set of struts. So keep that in mind when you order it. But anyway, a couple of things. We are going to skip a couple of different areas as I go through this, so it's not a lengthy video. But WD-40, our liquid wrench, all your nuts to help you get the stuff off to make it an easy transition when can. And then you probably need some tools. One, obviously a spring compressor to get the springs off the old ones. You also are going to need someone either hold it up as you drop it, or you're going to have to strap it up, which I'll probably do myself, strap it up and hold it in place as I take the top nuts out to release it. But first we're going to release the tire, and then we're going to take the bolts off the knuckle down on the bottom. That's going to help us pull that out. So anyway, we're going to move from there, and as I said, as we move on, I'll skip around to get to where we need to. You got the two bolts here. You got one bolt in the back, and that releases the bottom section. And that particular one we're looking at, going to be this particular one here. So that's what we're going to be with this one. Took me a minute to figure that one out. I zoomed in just a little bit real quick on this part here, because I want to make sure we all see what I'm talking about on a couple of the nuts and bolts. But for starters, brake lines held in. You need to take one off. Even though there's two sitting there, this one here is still attached to, I think it's the sensor for the brake. But anyway, take one nut off here, and that one is a 13 millimeter. And that 13 millimeter, you just easily spin that out. That one's not tight at all. And that one's completely released and in good shape. Make sure you don't lose your nuts and bolts as obviously you're going through it. Now, the next one's a little trickier. It has a Allen nut that's in the center, or Allen thread. I'm not too sure what it's actually called, but then the nut's on the outside that holds this arm in here. All right, so how that needs to be done, a little bit more trickier. You need an open-ended wrench and then your Allen wrench. But take your Allen wrench. In my case, I've got an open-end 15 millimeter. And I'm going right here with it. And then I'm going to hold that with that Allen wrench in the center. And that nut will completely come out. But that helps hold the backside, because the backside tip does not have a anything that you can hold on to it straight in. So see, and if you look at it, that's how that's sitting. It's the Allen wrench threaded nut, and that just comes out. You can set it down to the side, so we're good there. So now all we got left is the two bolts that hold on the knuckle. And I went ahead and cracked them loose a little bit with a brake bar. If you have a breaker bar, that's the way to do it. If you don't have a breaker bar, just put some elbow grease into it. And that particular size, I believe, we double check it. So it's a 3/16 nut on that side. And yes, it's a 3/16 on that side here to pull that out. I used an open-ended wrench to hold that tight, and I think I loosened it up enough where I can impact it completely off. And I'm just going to take the nut off. I'm not going to pull the bolt through yet because I'm not ready to drop it. So hopefully this will fit in easy. I can just continue to take this nut off. It's on the back side here. Looks like. Alright, right now the tension is still down on this a little bit, so what we're going to do, I've got the jack stands in there. So the jack stand's going to hold it in place. I'll remove the jack out, probably jack up the arm just a little bit to release some tension off, and then that'll allow me to slide these bolts pretty easy. But I think what I like to do first is I'm going to loosen all these across the top, the 3 bolts that are in the top, and then go ahead and get ready to drop it, so that way when it's on the jack and I can get to the bolts, it's easy to come, and then this whole part will not completely drop down when it's released from the strut. So that's where we are right now. A few minutes here, and I'll go ahead and pull it, and we'll get right back to it. Alright, something that I went in and took it off the knuckle. And a couple of things as you... Hey guys, this last thing here, we're going to compress the springs, and this is a Maddox kit, and I'm going to show you guys what it is so you're familiar. But this is a Maddox Harbor Freight for about $29, but it does a great job. I've used these before in the past. A couple of great safety features on them. One is they have the lock-in pins that are in place, so you put one on each side and then you lock them in. So I'll do it for here. So that's popped in, and then we're going to squeeze this side here. And I could go lower, but I'm gonna stick with that side there. And then as you screw it evenly between both sides, I've got one on the right side and then one on the other side here. I'm going to start pulling these in before I start loosening the top nut on this spring to release it completely, so I can put the new part in place. There we go. So that's where we are. I got them on each side, one on one side, one on the other side. And what I'll do is I'll start squeezing them together just to compress that, to release the tension off the top. So, and that is a 3/4 on that piece to pull them in. And I'll just do that back and forth until I have enough tension pulled off of that top, and I feel I can go ahead and work freely with this. Make sure you have the right tools. There's different things on YouTube about how you can do it without having spring holders, but yeah, you definitely want to make sure you got the right tool in place to keep them locked in. But these, as you can see, fit perfectly around the springs. Anyway, I'll tighten that up and we'll get back to switching them out. So we're at the point of getting the nut off. The spring is completely loosened up now, tight I should say, this way, so I could technically get it off and spin it if I wanted to. However, this nut still needs to come off. This is the one a lot of people don't show you what's going on YouTube's. Unfortunately, they just tell you to get in there and that nut comes out. Unfortunately, when you put a socket on that nut and you continually screw it off, it'll continue to spin in here. So the strut, or I should say the shock, will continually to spin, and that's what this needs to be held with. So obviously a socket covering, etc. This, to get an angle wrench in there, is almost impossible. There's a couple of different things on YouTube tell you put it in a vise. I've tried pipe wrenches. You could try different things. Here's where I got a little creative. I went ahead and created my own tool. I'm going to patent it. I'm just kidding. Someone else will beat me to it, so I don't have the money to do the patent. However, we will show you this. Here's what I created. I took a socket, okay, which is the it was 18 or 19 millimeter socket. So that's the 18. So I took an 18 millimeter socket, took a wrench, cut it off, and I welded it on the cut socket. So therefore it can sit right here, and then I can go ahead and get to my nut up across the top, and as I'm loosening it, you'll see how that spins. So we want to loosen that while we hold this completely. So that's what I'm going to do with this socket. As you see, I can spin it pretty easy, and I'm going to get in there and hold this piece up top with either a crescent or something in that nature here in just a second. So that's where I'm at. Just wanted to show you guys that piece there. Unfortunately, that's a tough one to get off, and that's probably the hardest part of the job. Alright, so here's where we are. We got the other one off. We're ready just to make the quick change and put all the pieces back together, and then we'll be in good shape. But once that's done there, that's like I said, that's the hardest part, is getting that bolt off and getting that piece on. So we're going to just lift this up ever so slowly take the boot off. You can see where that's completely broke. Take this piece, convert that over to here. Have that locked in place as well. We're good there. Catch on that side. Take this boot off. And come up to the top would make more sense. Slide that right on. And I'm going to take this piece and go right over. Okay, that's where we are with that. Shift this a little bit. Got a spot for that to go in. There we go. Back with that. Okay, so that's in place now. And then we've got to realign the other one. Obviously, that's going to go down here. Just like that. Okay. And we're in pretty good shape. Now just put the cap on, and we'll go from there. I'm just going to lean this right up against here somewhat. And that's going to sit right on top of this here. Like so. On top of that, tighten that down, and we're back to business. And then I'll release the springs and then go ahead and put that in place. So not too bad. Like I said, the hardest part is getting that top nut off if you have a broken shock. All right, last thing I want to talk about and to wrap it up, and this is kind of an important thing here, I'm going to go ahead and set this right here and show you once this is in place. A couple of things I want you to look at. You might drive and find a small rattling, but it's important before you get to driving that you make sure that you do one thing. Look in this area here. Make sure there's no gaps from the nut to the bottom, I guess I should say, because if not, it'll rattle. Now when you're out and have it outside and you tighten it up and you think you might tighten it all the way up based off of that spring, but once you get it in place and the actual body is pressing down on that spring, it's going to create a small gap there. So again, what you want to do is, this is a tool I created, and again, just something that I did, and I'm sure there's tools out there for this specific. However, if there's not and you can't track one down, shoot me a message and I'll see if I can either build you one and send it to you. But it's really a good tool. It covers right over that nut, and that allows you to tighten it down or loosen it up
however you need to do it, and especially when you're removing it as well. It makes it a lot easier than what we've done in the past. So again, just observation when you get ready to finish it off. Make sure you're completely tight down in this neighborhood right here. If not, you're going to have a small knocking or rattling as you drive on either side, and that's usually what it's due from, is that's not tightened down all the way. If you guys got any questions, shoot me a message and I'll see if I can't respond. You guys have a great week. Thanks.